All right, everybody. We just saw the first trailer for Marvel's Secret Invasion. I have thoughts. This is not a breaking down all the things that you see in the trailer and trying to piece together what scenes happen in what order or something like that. This is not one of those videos. I'm not going to tell you the X things you missed. I just want to talk generally about the vibe. I want to see if I feel the same way as I did before about my James Rhodes theory. And just in general, like kind of what I'm looking forward to, what I'm a little confused about, and what else I think might be missing. And I will give you like a theory of what I think is going on. And it kind of explains a couple things that I think weren't really in this trailer and some questions people have in general with this series. That being said, this is not like looking at every scene and figuring out this person's a Skrull because they're holding something with their left hand instead of their right hand or something like that. That would be insane if they do this in this, by the way. That's like a thing that I feel like in comics, well, not really in comics. I remember the animated Spider-Man episode where the chameleon like copied the wrong Nick Fury eye patch side. And it's like, I think these guys are a little better than that. Okay. First thing. I was curious going into this why there were not Avengers. And I think the explanation that seems to have in the show makes sense, right? Which is there can't be because this kind of gels with what it seems like the Skrulls are doing, the bad Skrulls are copying powers, so they are making a super Skrull. And it seems like to make a super Skrull, they need to like get an actual sample, like a piece of skin or DNA or something from whatever they're copying. So like, for instance, at one point we see them open up like a big box that says Cull on it from Damage Control. So that's got to be Cull Obsidian's arm that got chopped off and was in Central Park. So if the super Skrull want to be big and strong like him, then they would probably, take that arm, I guess, touch it, maybe put it in a machine, maybe eat a little bit of it. I don't know. But whatever it is, they could do that. That's something, I think that's every man does that. There's a character who does that in comics. I don't think that's what they'll do. But I understand Fury then going like, well, I'm not going to involve Captain Marvel or any of those guys because if they get their hands on them, they will be able to have Captain Marvel powers and that'll be trouble. I do think there's one level beyond that you can go as Fury, but it's like I should tell them or I should make sure that they're not involved because like maybe bringing them into this fight would bring them closer to the Skrulls, but it would also maybe they might be getting infiltrated already and I don't know. Maybe he knows why that's not happening. That does bring me to my first Secret Skrull pick, which I'm not pick, but like Martin Freeman. We've thought he was a Skrull for a while. I feel like in the trailer, he's the one that's like, hey, where are all those Avengers at, by the way? You got any tasty Avengers hiding there? So that probably means he's a Skrull. I feel like it wouldn't really matter to anybody. And I think, there's not humongous fans of his. And also, him having a relationship with Val, him doing Wakanda stuff in this new Black Panther movie, and like maybe even being a citizen of Wakanda now. I mean, I guess not because he's just like around in England or wherever it seems like this takes place, unless it globetrots, but I don't think it does. That means that he has access to like places that no one has access to. Like it would be really hard as a Skrull to infiltrate Wakanda. So do it like he did it, and that works. I think we got a little bit of War Machine. I do still believe he is a Skrull. They've done nothing to make me think that he's not. And the fact that he's in this show at all, it's like he's probably a Skrull. One thing that we got from this trailer that we didn't get before is like a big giant warehouse full of people in those little like thingies, the little like avatar, things like that where people just sit and like lay. I imagine that is some sort of machine that is like a backup for people they steal. So like, let's say you take a War Machine, for example, like James Rhodes, you take him, put him on the bed, and then anybody can take his appearance maybe, or just like, if the Skrull who is doing him dies or something, a new guy gets to go and take the power. And that way, any Skrull can be any person. And also, we can have the character back when we stop the Skrulls in the end of this. Like, we can find the real War Machine or whatever. I did see a report that said he's a political person now, as opposed to, like, whatever he used to be, Army liaison, Air Force guy. And the way that it described it almost did make it seem like in the article was like, he's playing a different role. Like he's a new kind of character. It's like, we all know. So a little bit of the character that I think we now know is Talos' daughter. She's a good guy. I wouldn't be surprised if Talos doesn't make it out of this one. and she's kind of picks up the slack. I wonder what happened to, I guess Talos' wife was doing like the Maria Hill impression for Spider-Man Far From Home, so I imagine she's still out there. But yeah, I bet those two get killed, at least one of them. And besides that, I mean, I don't think we got too much else from this trailer. I think vibes-wise, it's fun. I do think the goal here for the Super Skrulls, or for the Skrulls, is to create a Super Skrull. So they want to find, they want to get Kamala, maybe. I mean, okay, let's look at this for a second. If they wanted to make a Super Skrull out of characters they have now, who could, like, Cull Obsidian for your thing, super strength, perfect. Kamala for your stretchiness, kind of, but almost, maybe. If you wanted fire, I mean, that's kind of what Carol does. That's also kind of what Monica does. Like, both of your Marvels can kind of fill that role. I wouldn't say any of them's like pure, it's like shooting fire, but like they're in that neighborhood. And then invisibility, I don't know if we have an invisible character yet. Plenty of kinds of invisibility. And I guess there's like magic, but I don't know if they'll be able to copy that because it's an ability as opposed to like a physical characteristic. So I feel like what they're going to do is they have infiltrated damage control and they're building something. That'll be what characters say. They're looking for parts for something. We don't know what. And they're building the Super Skrull. This guy it seems like he has some Groot because he's doing that plant thing. Although that could be just normal shapeshifter tentacles, venom, almost kind of. Those tendrils aren't super specific to Groot. However, that would make sense. I wonder who would the Guardian be that was the infiltrator? Like, how did they get a hold of Groot? But this is usually the only floral colossus that exists in the universe, although I don't know if we've ever gotten confirmation that that's the case here. And then, you just want one flyer. I do think Carol would be the ideal person to Skrullify in the universe because she just has a lot of power. She's very useful. Like, she could kill Thanos if she wanted to, probably. And there aren't any really significant downsides to her. The same way that, say, like with Kamala, it's like, well, you need the bangle. Do you not need the bangle? Is there mutant power? What could you actually duplicate? With Carol, it's just like she has an innate energy inside of her that is some sort of, DNA remnant of being exploded by the Kree ship. I mean, overall, I like the Nick Fury we have here a lot. I think he's interesting, and I like the idea as a kind of limiting factor on this series. We cannot bring Avengers to the show because the Avengers are what the Skrull want, so we have to keep everything kind of separate from them. Yeah, I think Ross is a Skrull. I think Rhodey's a Skrull. I feel like those are the big two. Olivia Colman in this trailer, I know we believe she's playing a gender-swapped Union Jack. If that's the case, I think she could be a Skrull. I don't think it really cares. I feel like we need at least one big Skrull, and for me, that has to be either Rhodey or Ross. The other thing people have brought up is the idea that, like, it's a little weird that now the Skrulls are bad guys and they were good guys before. And I do think what I liked about that in Captain Marvel, and what I think they can continue here, is this idea that they're not good guys or bad guys. They're everything. There's bad Skrulls the same way there's bad people. I think having the race be entirely villainous is dumb. But having them be like kind of good, kind of bad, that works. I assume the Kree are mostly that too. Like, there's some Kree that are good. They're not all evil, but there's plenty of evil ones. And I think that level of nuance, like, if we didn't have Talos here being like, they're bad Skrulls, buddy, that wouldn't work. But because we have at least one good Skrull, and I assume Emilia Clarke's one, and I assume other ones that we'll spend time with, I think it makes sense. He has too many gravestones. He's got two. It's too many. I think it'd be funny because we do know one of the things from comics is Nick Fury traditionally has a lot of safe houses kind of hidden with different equipment and stuff. It would be funny if every safe house was a Nick Fury gravestone, although, to be honest, that would make them pretty vulnerable. You'd want some sort of hidden name thing. I've heard people suggest that maybe that's his dad, Nick Fury Sr. I don't know if we've heard of a Nick Fury Sr. And in the comics that's happened, but like I don't think he's ever been called Junior. Overall, I think this is a good trailer. I think this trailer looks good. I am surprised that they haven't played up the who do you trust? Like the way that I think the tagline for this was it's closer than you think, which is the invasion is, but the who do you trust, that's like what the show is. I think the problem with it is once you spend a little time with it and start crossing characters' names off the list, it probably becomes pretty clear who you do trust and who you don't. Or you can never have known, but like I think it's going to be the kind of thing where they don't want you to spend too much time leading up to it guessing because you'll figure it out. Then yeah, I get that. Overall, it looks good. I like that there's just not that many shows this year, right? Like there's just not that many things. I think Guardians looks promising. This looks promising. And then the rest of it we'll see. So that's my real quick first impression on Secret Invasion. I think that's what happens. Here's the one other question. Does Nick Fury die at the end of this? Yeah, I think he does. I think they kill Nick Fury at the end of this. I think he's gotten his own show. I think he'll pass the torch to, Emilia Clarke's character or Maria Hill. But I feel like if he was going to pass the torch to Maria Hill, he would have done that by now. But Emilia Clarke, it's like, she's new blood. This can be used to introduce her. I bet Mendelsohn dies too. And then this is kind of where they go from here. I think the bad guy looks fine. He's kind of there being menacing. He could be one of those bad guys that's kind of dull. I also think the idea that it's like, I'm not saying he could be, but I'm saying like, this isn't like, oh my God, what a fun bad guy kind of moment. I do think the idea that he is some sort of like revolutionary who's like, we haven't gotten a planet yet and I want to kill everybody. Fine. But I do think if we're doing this kind of heroes protecting the status quo thing, I do think they have to give a little bit on like, we do have a planet. It's just not the one he wants, or like we have to live in secret, but he doesn't like that. And he wants to go do a rebellion or whatever. I think they need to give him a little bit more nuance, but I'm sure they can do that. So yeah, overall, Secret Invasion, trailer cool. Those are my thoughts.